Hello heroes, I'm Cheesy Muffins and this is what GamesCampus wants you to know but never quite told you. I'm going to cover a few things in this video, first of which being the tech points. What the heck are they? What do you do with them? The second thing being different classes, what's the difference, what are they used for, and last thing being some of the skills. At the end I'll do a little bit of myth busting when it comes to fleets and squadrons, so stick around, we'll have a bit of fun. First things first, what are tech points? Tech points are points you use to upgrade or acquire new planes. How do you get them? You get them by leveling. You will acquire 2 tech points for every time you level. This is true so far all the way up, but at the higher levels, say over 100, you may start getting a single tech point, but it's unconfirmed, it's unknown. But so far, 2 tech points every level. As I said, tech points are used for production of planes. If you look at a plane you want to produce at the bottom right, as you can see, it will cost you a certain amount of tech points to produce, as well as if you want to produce something over the level of 42, a blueprint and some materials in order to make that plane. You can also use tech points to upgrade planes you already own. You simply click on the upgrade button, then you can see they cost a varying amount of gems, they require a different level, and some even require tech points. The first couple of levels, the first 1 or 2 planes will be 0 tech points, so you may figure you want to use that before you get into your next plane, but you won't be spending that much time in them, I do believe. As you get up into the higher levels, they start costing 1, 2, 3, and at the very top, even 4 tech points to upgrade, so you might want to take time to think about where you want to invest those tech points. The last thing about tech points is, can you get them back after you spent them? And the answer is yes, but it does take campus cash. And I'll show you in the item shop. They're in functional, a couple of pages in, and there's a couple things here. You can also reset broken upgrades. Upgrades do have a chance to fail, which means you'll have wasted a couple tech points, but there is an option for you for that. The other thing you see in this item shop here is the resetting skills, and we'll get into that a little bit in this next section about the different classes of planes. Now you've learned a bit about tech points, you're going to want to know, what am I going to do with them? Well, I'm going to go over the different classes of planes, see which one you might want to think about going into. The first is the Speed Fighter. The Speed Fighter is meant to go very fast, track down those targets out in the distance, chase them down, and in such OW things where you're handling documents, if you happen to get it, it's a good thing to have it really fast so the enemies can't catch up to you. These speed fighters will have a higher speed stat and a higher engine temperature stat, making them ideal for going very fast, very quickly. The next type of fighter you might want to consider getting is the Maneuverability Fighter. As you can see, it has a very high mobility stat, which makes it great in PvP situations, as you can outturn anything that wants to chase you down in a really high set-out maneuverability fighter. These are useful, as I said, in PvP and OW, and they're just an all-around great turning plane. It's an excellent dog fighter, and that's a maneuverability fighter. The last type of fighter is a firepower fighter. It gets its own special skill tree, which you'll see in a few minutes here. The firepower fighter is generally better equipped. It has more machine guns, more rockets, and heavier cannon setouts. For instance, the Thunderbolts tend to get up to 6 machine guns and a few bombs and even 10 rockets at the level 68 plane. So these firepower fighters, they're very popular in OW as well, because they do have that heavier firepower and they do have some special skills which makes them pretty good in PvP situations. So that's the firepower fighter for you. After fighters, there are 2 different types of gunners, the first of which being the combat gunner. Now gunners are a bit like, especially the combat gunners, they're a bit like firepower fighters on steroids. They tend to get a little bit heavier machine guns, about the same as the firepower fighters, but they do have a higher defense and attack stat than those firepower fighters can get. They do have some high speed getting up to the higher levels, and their engine temperature, as all gunners, will be pretty high as well, but they are not very maneuverable. Their mobility stats are still quite low, which makes them great for just running head-on into an enemy where you have a bit of an advantage, but if you start getting into a turning battle with a gunner, you're not going to last very long. The second type of gunner is the support gunner. The support gunner has, as you can see, a pretty high attack and engine temperature and defense stats, but its speed is a little lacking, its mobility especially is lacking. The support gunner really relies on its set of awesome skills. It has some very excellent skills in its own skill tree, but it's not really that tank in an OW situation. It's meant to be a little bit aloof from the battle, and that's the support gunner. After gunners, there are two types of bombers, the first of which being the dive bombers. Dive bombers tend to have a higher speed, higher mobility stat, while still maintaining a above average attack and defense rating. And it's still got some decent engine temperature, but these dive bombers do carry less bombs, and they have less rear gunners on average, and they're really meant to be kind of an in-between between gunners and bombers. The heavy bombers are a little bit heavily armored, but these guys, they're actually pretty popular in OW for such missions that require the bombing of targets, because you can still outmaneuver some fighters a little bit and still be able to get away, whereas those heavy bombers were just big, hulking targets. Last, and certainly not the least, are the heavy bombers. This is the Halifax on the Allied side. You can see its engine temperature stat is pretty high for such a low level. Its defense stat is also very high, as most heavy bombers are, because they do have to contend with many fighters being much more maneuverable and much faster, hampering them and chasing them down throughout a battlefield. These do carry more bombs than the dive bomber will, and also carry more aerial mines, which are a defensive weapon, which many people have started to complain about in OW. But this thing is meant to just drop a whole lot of pain down on the ground through bombs, and that's a heavy bomber. The heavy bomber does have a skill tree all its own. It's got a few very powerful skills, mostly focused on dropping many bombs very quickly and for very high damage. Now, you've heard me talk about skills in those last set of different plane classes. Now I'm going to go into them a little bit. There are 4 skill trees, the first of which is the common skill tree. These are a set of 4 skills which basically come in handy and can be used on any plane. They often have to do with a little maneuverability, saving yourself a little lifespan, or maybe protecting yourself from a little bit of damage, or marking someone that's shot you down. The second skill tree is the fighter skill tree, and you can see there's mostly maneuvers and various dogfighting type of skills here. They're really meant to get your plane up and around the battlefield in all sorts of interesting ways. But as you can see on the right, there's one skill tree set apart that is specifically for the firepower fighter, that basically makes his weapons more powerful and helps him shoot down things much more quickly, as you can have a critical, or you can set your enemy on fire. So that's a couple of the skills for the firepower fighter only. The third skill tree is for the gunners, and as you can see, I've put a whole lot of tech points into these gunner skills, and these are mainly used for helping out teammates, or just helping out teammates. These skills focus a lot on giving health to your teammates or to yourself, or hampering enemies, as you can see in the middle bit on the left. That far left skill tree is for support gunners only and contains some very powerful skills, including the rescue pilot skill, which will rescue fellow pilots that have been shot down in battle. You respawn them, although it does have a very long timer. This last skill tree is for the bombers, and I've put a little bit of tech points into this because I am developing a bomber, and that skill tree, as you can see just on the left, right next to that one lone tree, is for the heavy bombers only. It has some very sophisticated skills for dropping a whole lot of bombs very quickly, or protecting you in a firepower fighter frenzy, suppose. But how do you get tech points for this? Well, you get tech points by completing quests. That is the one and only way to get tech points. You get them from the man in the bar, sitting down, having a drink, and every one of his quests will reward you with one skill point to use in your skill trees. Now, once you have a skill point, how do you use them? Well, you'll right-click on a skill, and this little screen will pop up, and you can use the arrows to adjust how many skill points you want to add, and every time you add 5 skill points to a skill, it levels it up to the next level, and that will increase its abilities or decrease its cooldown time, or perhaps increase its range. And that's how you use skill points. To use a skill in battle, you simply click on the skill, drag it into your hanger slot at the bottom right, and then you can click on the various hotkeys between Z and V if you happen to have the 4 skill slot, and you can use them in battle to help your teammates, especially squadroned up, which makes it very important to use squadrons. Now, I just want to say a few words about myth busting between fleets and squadrons. What are the bonuses they give you? What don't they give you? In the fleets, there's no EXP bonus for being in a fleet or running with fleet members. There's no skill points or tech points bonus for being in a fleet. There's no CC bonus for being in a fleet. It's simply a collection of individuals who are willing to help each other, maybe give each other equipment, things like that. That's what I mainly use my fleet for. I will run with them. They will run with me in missions if I need a little bit of help as a gunner and say I need a bomber. You can easily talk to your fleet members by putting out fleet broadcasts, and that's basically what a fleet is there for. It's a bunch of people willing to help each other out. Now, what about squadrons? Well, squadrons are made inside mission rooms, and you can have up to 4 people in a squadron. The main benefit about squadrons is experience points and gems are shared for kills. Also, if you have a quest for a certain number of planes shot down, every plane you shoot down, as well as every plane the squadron may shoot down, will count for that quest. So, squadrons, I highly recommend getting in a squadron in every mission room you go into. It is highly beneficial, but it does not give you any crazy EXP bonus. There's a little bit because it adds from your squadron mates getting kills, but there's no crazy bonus in for it. It's mostly sharing and benefits everyone that's in the squadron. I highly recommend it. The absolute last thing I want to talk to you about is the Academy system. I cannot recommend highly enough how much I appreciate this Academy system. If you're under the level of 42, definitely get yourself in an Academy if you can. If you're above level 42, get as many people below level 42 in your Academy as you can. It definitely benefits both sides. If you're under level 42 and in an Academy, and your Academy leader runs a mission and completes it, and you're online, you will get a portion of his experience, not subtracted from his total, but added from. So you could get a couple hundred experience every time he finishes a mission. If you are above the level of 42 and one of your Academy students or recruits runs a mission and completes it, you will get gems and energy. Energy, yes, 5 energy points every time he completes a mission. Now, if you're running in the same mission, the leader will get 2,000 experience and 1,000 gems. That's an extra incentive to run with your recruits, so you can get extra experience, extra gems. It definitely helps with leveling, especially if you're running those higher level Pacific or Germany missions. Alright, that's all I have for you today. That's what GamesCampus wanted you to know, but never quite told you. I hope you play Heroes in the Sky for a long time to come, and I hope you learned a little bit of something here. So, see you later, folks. I'm Cheesy Muffins.